And then you're writing the hell out of it in this memoir.
I only know how to write the shit out of things. I don't go on to the next sentence until I believe that it's perfect. So I'm not going to stick you folks out here in Litquake land, book land, or audio book land, and I'm not going to stiff God or myself on this.
Oh my God.
Looking back at my wild-ass life, I may as well tell you the truth and give it to you as artfully as I can. Truth be told, it was a relief, but not an exorcism, to write this book, because I always address the phenomenon of my individual life. Not that it is individually phenomenological. Each and every one of you live in the phenomenon of your own individual lives. I address my life from the standpoint of how do I avoid the misconduct that I've evinced previously and not pull the same old shit over and over again. And that was very much what spurred me on to write The Hill Concurs.
But you know, to write memoir, and to do what you're talking about, to go and to write it about how you're not going to be doing that same thing over, I mean, memoir is hard. I mean, I'm always saying memoir is basically psychoanalysis practiced on yourself by an amateur. And then get that on the page. Did you find that a lot harder than doing fiction?
No, it was easier because I understood the themes. My Dark Places, misogynistic violence. The Hilliker Curse, the conjunction of men and women. Misogynistic violence and all its horror is much larger than I am. Ditto, the conjunction of men and women. I would not have written these books if I had not had universal themes to hitch my personal story to. Other than that, you're dealing in solipsism, you're a pain in the ass, and nobody gives a fucking shit.
So you think you're done with the memoirs now? Because, you know, we got to say the Hilliker Curse has a good happy ending.
It does have a happy ending.
So you would be pretty done with the memoirs.
I said I was done with memoir when I wrote My Dark Places. One never knows.
Okay, I want to move on and talk a bit about your fiction, because I like your fiction very much. And I want to read something from the Black Dahlia. And I want to read this because this is something that has so stuck with me since I read this book back in July. And it's very short, because I would presume to read after you if it wasn't short. And because I think that this is something that just a skilled fiction writer can do. It's so impressive. And this is a scene when Madeline is bringing Bucky in, and she's preparing him to meet her family, to meet her father. And Bucky's the narrator, and he says, "I noticed the stuffed spaniel poised by the fireplace, with a yellowed newspaper rolled into its mouth. Madeline said, 'That's Balto.' The paper is the LA Times for August 1st, 1926. That's the day Daddy learned he'd made his first million. Balto was our pet then. Daddy's accountant called up and said, 'Emmett, you're a millionaire.' Daddy was cleaning his pistols, and Balto came in with the paper. Daddy wanted to consecrate the moment, so he shot him. If you look closely, you can see the bullet hole in his chest. Hold your breath, Lovey. Here's the family." I love this.
That's funny shit.
But it's better than funny shit because you know everything you need to know about Madeline's father. He has not even come on the scene. And you know everything you need to know about him. And I thought, oh God, that is so fucking brilliant. Because with one small detail, we know this. Do you remember coming up with this? And how you did that?
I was living in Eastchester, New York, I was 37 years old. I had air. I was living in a basement apartment. I had had an epiphany recently. The broad strokes of the plot in the social milieu of LA Confidential, not my next book, but the third book in the series I was planning, came to me in a rush. The epiphany was this: whatever I can conceive, I can execute. Thus, I have outlined and conceived on a grander and grander scale ever since that moment. I wrote that scene. It was already rigorously outlined. The outlines, 175 pages for the Black Dahlia, they've gotten increasingly larger, give me wiggle room and latitude to extrapolate as I write individual scenes, because the blueprint is utterly inviolate. Plot, characterization, milieu. I knew I had a few paragraphs to have fun with this. I love dogs. I would never shoot a dog. It came to me and I laughed like a motherfucker. Because it's funny shit.
Yeah, you knew it when you wrote it, huh?
I laughed.
Yeah, because there was like nothing else you had to do about that character. He was the... It is fabulous. And that does bring up the part, because we always do have writers in the audience. We have a Litquake audience, and people always want to know about process. Your novels are really densely plotted. That is the phrase they always use when they talk about your work, and it always has a lot of plot. So you talk about how you plot in advance. You do have that. So you're clearly not one of those writers who go off on that, I will let the character tell me what they want to do, right? I can tell you're very classy gesture. You're not really one of them.
No, I'm not. And they're being entirely disingenuous because the characters don't exist. Here's what they're saying. Here's what they mean in their jive codified fashion when they make preposterous statements like that. It means they've written off the top of their head. They reached a narrative point where they have more than one option, and they make a conscious choice to take one or the other. Non-existent characters who don't exist outside of their heads, do not talk to them. They see, oh shit, what do I do now? They make their decision based on whatever comes to them in the moment.
Well, now, you did the LA Quartet novels, but then after that, as you talk about this in The Hilliker Curse, when you start to conceive of American tabloids, you said, I wanted to write a whole new kind of novel.
Yes.
A completely different kind of novel. What did you mean by that?
Big historical political books, in no way beholden to strict police work or homicide investigations, set largely outside of my smog-bound fatherland of Los Angeles.
And you described it because you were talking about, I wanted to turn American history, I wanted to make history into a novel of yearning. That I found a really interesting phrase, and you called it sort of history into a novel of yearning. Describe that, what that means for you.
As I say in The Hilliker Curse, yearning is the chief fount of my inspiration. Wanting what I cannot have causes me to create large-scale art in compensation. Bad men in love with strong women. The leitmotif for The Hilliker Curse, so women will love me. Lying in the dark, conjuring women, that as my entry point into large blocks of first Los Angeles history, then American history.
It's impressive because you do that. You turn the huge events of recent American history into yearning and into this male-female dynamic. It's very interesting the way that you translate that.
You take a bad man an unseen leg breaker of history, one who implements public policy on its lowest level. He has glimmerings of conscience early on. Who is the messenger that takes him to full explication of his consciousness and allows him to implement moral stands? Big fucking surprise, it's a woman. And the redemptive power inherent in the conjunction of men and women is, to me, the greatest theme in literature.
But what's interesting about these books, too, is that the historical events that we're talking about, I mean, we're talking about the assassination of JFK, of RFK, of Martin Luther King. This is, I mean, these are huge events that you're playing this out against. So these are not small events that people who don't know the books will think about. These are very big events that you're playing this out against. And that's what I find so interesting about what you're doing with that.
It's the private infrastructure of public policy. It's the secret history that I've always sensed was there. You take big events, big characters like JFK, RFK, MLK, and you show them in casual contexts. The protagonists are goons, stooges, bagmen, and flunkies. Part of the art, a significant part of the art of writing historical fiction, is to assume that your readers already know who these big cats are. You don't need to see John F. Kennedy's assassination. You don't need to hear Martin Luther King give his I Have a Dream speech. It stands as subtext. Better to show them on a level playing field with the stooges, goons, flunkies, and bagmen in their